What's good, people? It's Jagilsdorf coming back at you with another video, and today this is kind of like a part 2 of some of the drum break examples that I used with Serato sample. So if you haven't seen part 1, go ahead and check that out right here. Otherwise, let's get into the video. Alright, so I already have my drum break already timed up and ready to go. However, my project is in 75, so it automatically will sync that down for me. Okay, simple as that. And that off the bat is already, very nice. Now, if you notice, unlike the last video, I did not section these off. And the reason why is because I wanted the little artifacts that come with it overlaying. Just take a look at what I did. And this kind of like fills in the gaps as to what we're doing. So let's break it down. The main reason why I kept it going is because I wanted the hi-hats. So I found 2 sections where I can kind of, extend the hi-hats a little bit, because if I just kind of do the kick and snare, it'll get that double kick. And that's great and all, and that sounds cool, but I don't want the double kick on each one, so I needed some extra hi-hats to kind of fill in the gaps. One of the other things that I didn't mention in the last video is you can enable velocity. So we're going to keep it on one shot, we're going to keep it on mono, but we're going to enable velocity. And after I already recorded up my break here, I kind of went through and changed the velocity of some of the notes. So this one right here I added in, and it's a little softer, right? Nothing crazy. And then this is a little harder, but it's not as hard as this. Right? So those kind of like cascade down in the order I just showed you. Then there's this note right here, which you can already tell right off the bat. It sounds like it's filtered. Well, I decided that I wanted a different note to be filtered. So I just added a secondary pad, put it at the same position as the kick, and then I came down and I just cranked this filter knob down. And it only affects that note. So the other note has no filter on it, but this note has a filter. I think this is carrying on too long. Yeah, hear that? And I don't like that it's hitting that extra note. We can extend this out so that it won't reach, no matter how long that note is. It won't ever, it won't ever hit that sound. Oh, there's still that subtlety. There we go. So now that's a nice clean transition. Let's hear that again. Now, I don't like how loud this is. Sounds a little loud to me, but we're going to get to that with my EQ here. Now, I already did the EQ. I already set it up, but let's do it together here. So we'll see how similar it sounds by doing it twice. This is a little technique I like to do sometimes. After you EQ something and you like it, turn it off, duplicate your EQ, and do it again. And then see how similar they are. See what you did differently. Give it a couple minutes. I did that like 10 minutes ago, and then I set up all my gear to make the video. And we're going to do it again, and we're going to see how similar it is. So I know it's not going to be the exact same, but it might be close. So let's see what I do here. All right, so I'm going to cut off at the 40, and then we're going to boost this bass a little bit, just a little bit. And I'm going to make this bigger. When you look at that kick, notice how it's very pointy, right? It doesn't have like a nice flat curve. And you can hear this, but I want you guys to also look. I know a lot of people will be like, oh, it doesn't matter what you hear, it matters what you see. And then a lot of other people are like, oh, it doesn't matter what you see, it matters what you hear. It's both. It's very much so both. And if you're not utilizing every scope of, analysis that you can use, then you're missing out on information. So don't just use your ears, use your eyes too to actually look at what's going on. But at the end of the day, definitely rely on your ears more than your eyes, right? That is the rule of thumb here. But let's take a look. We can see just off the bat that because it's got that like point, it's tuned to a specific frequency. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna try to flatten that out so it's a little bit more, thumpy and a little bit more even. So let's look at that kick. One thing I like to do is I will zoom in and I will put a little loop on the kick. Now, fair warning, this is gonna sound really annoying to a lot of you. You wanna work fast when you start doing this because this is what I've just essentially done. We can actually come into our analyzer here, decrease the decay. And this will allow us to see exactly where that is. So it's right about here. And if we pull that down a little bit, now let's listen and check it out. A little bit more. See how we're getting flatter and flatter? Now we're gonna boost that back end. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to drop some of this mid frequency down. Because by reducing that lower frequency, I'm starting to hear the octave above wherever that was. And there's math behind like the octaves, but for me, I just listen because I can hear it. It went from like a bum to like a bum. I don't know if that makes any sense or if I'm just sounding crazy, but it's sounding more nasally. I love words that people use to describe music. Like us musicians, we use the funniest words to describe music. Comment your favorite word to use, like when you're describing music. I like when people use the word like flack or thump, gritty, muddy, crisp, crunchy. I love it. I love music words like that. There, that's what I'm hearing. Right? You guys hear this. This is all I can hear. So I'm going to reduce that frequency and then we're going to tighten it up. Can you hear that? Is that just me? I don't know, that sounds a lot cleaner to me. Hopefully that won't do too much damage to our snare here. So it is cutting that low end of the snare out. And there's ways around this. We could duplicate the track, for example, and put the kick on one track and the snare on the other. And that's what I typically do. I strongly recommend that in most circumstances, your kick, snare, and hi-hat are on completely different tracks. And then you use a summation for the whole thing. Now let's handle this note here. Because this also has that weird, like, mid-range noise. It sounds like it's somewhere in this like 100 to 800 like nasally sound. I don't know how else to describe it other than nasally. It doesn't have like a thump, it has like a honk. And you can see that when that kick is going off, each one, there's like all these little octaves that keep coming up where this kick is, and you can see which one that I want to get rid of. I'm trying to get rid of this one right here. I don't want to get rid of it completely, but I definitely want to limit it. Okay, I'm liking it. Let's compare and contrast my secondary EQ here and my primary EQ that I did initially. And we can see that, they're very, very similar curves. And no, I was not just looking at the little picture in the corner the whole time. I was actually thinking about what I was gonna do here. Looks like I added this 220 here that I didn't before. And then the other thing that I did that I completely forgot, that's actually just kind of important, that I've been trying to do more myself. I know I'm being hypocritical here, but I'm trying to do it more myself. Reduce more than add. When you do EQ, you should always be reducing things and then giving overall gain in the end. So take away what you don't want, don't add what you do want. But we added over here, and when you do that, you might want to pull your gain down completely to kind of level it off. So we're gonna do a little bit of a gain reduction. By doing that, now you notice that we just cut our 800 to 2000, so we can add this little lift here to bring that back at unity, whereas before it's like kind of below. And then each one of these don't need to be as harsh as they were. Okay, so now that we have, fixed our overall output gain a little bit better, again, we can see that I did something very similar. I guess I was a little bit more harsh with that, that 300, 400 hertz range. Apparently here I did it at 360, and over here I did it at 448. Here I did it at 75 or 70 hertz. And here, look at how almost identical that is. 69.5 versus 70.5 hertz. That is the closest I've ever had it, doing these blind tests like that. If there's anything that I've noticed, it's very hard to A and B your EQ or any effect that you do when one of them is most certainly louder, because our brains just like to think that louder is better. So it's very hard for me personally to do that. So what if I really wanted to, decide the difference, I would duplicate the track, come into the mixer, delete one of the EQs on one, delete the other EQ on the other, go like this, solo both of them. I'm alt dragging for that one. Alt or option drag duplicates that track. I could have, instead of alt drag, I could alt shift drag, and that'll create an alias as long as your advanced tools are on, and that actually doesn't duplicate the MIDI, it copies it. So if I make any changes to this MIDI, it'll make it to this MIDI. That's why it says instance 2 track 8 bar 1. That's this, it's referencing it. Little cool trick for you. Aliases, definitely check them out. And we can see that the one is clearly louder. The other one's like about 4 decibels louder. So we could come into this one and then just do -4. And this would give me a much better A and B test. Okay, so I like the original EQ that I had because of the fact that this other EQ, it's doing something to the snare that I don't like. That snare is way too high pitch now. Otherwise, I like the second EQ better. So in that instance, what I would do is I would actually duplicate it, come through here, we'll delete our hi-hats, we'll delete our snare, we'll come into this one, and we'll delete our kicks. And now we have our kick, and we have our snare and hats. The other reason why I like to do this is because then we can compress. So let's real quick, we'll just do some compression. What I do is I take everything but my kick and my snare. And then once you highlight all those, I literally just clicked one, hit shift, and then click the end, not stereo output, sorry. And then I'm hitting command to deselect the 2 that I don't want. We were going to right click or control click stereo out and change it to bus. I don't know why, but I do bus 30. And it creates a bus. Now all those are outputting to that bus. We'll come over to here and we will put a compressor. The input to the sidechain portion is going to be instrument kick. That's why we label them. Otherwise you'd have to know what the track number is. Turn that off auto, put these all at 0, no auto gain, and 2.1 and a 20. Any more than a -10 reduction on your sidechaining kick here is going to be obnoxious. I like a harsh sidechain on the whole notes. That's why if you notice I have it as a -25 and then a 3.5. If I were to look at the waveform of this, because of the way the velocities are, we can clearly see that there are loud parts and quiet parts to this kick here. And the loud part is at the beginning, and then there's another loud part at the 4, but this bum bum, it's not ba-bum, it's bum bum. It gets louder, it's quiet loud, and I do that on purpose. It kind of leads you in. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to check out these videos over here and subscribe right here, and check the description below for some sample packs that I used in the video. Peace.